Right now, listen closely. That voice in your head, the commentary, the planning, the self-criticism, you've been told that voice is you. But in the next 10 seconds, we're going to run a test, a simple experiment, and once you see it, you won't be able to unsee it. If you're awakening, this is one of the strangest parts. Your mind is louder, but you're also more aware of it. It's like you're watching your thoughts, instead of being trapped inside them. And that can feel terrifying. Because if you are not your thoughts, then who are you? And if your thoughts aren't the truth, then why have they controlled your emotions for so long? This video is going to answer that without spiritual fluff, without dogma, just direct truth. And by the end, you'll know exactly what's happening to you. Okay, here's the 10-second test. Ready? For the next 10 seconds. Try to stop thinking. Just stop. No words. No images, no commentary. Go. Most people discover one of two things. Either 1. The mind immediately rebels and produces even more thoughts. Or 2. There is a brief gap, a quiet space, and then the mind starts again. Now here's the key. If you can observe your thoughts, you cannot be your thoughts. Because the observer and the observed cannot be the same thing. Let that land. Your thoughts are objects. They arise, they move, they fade. But something in you remains present through all of it. And that something is what's waking up. Not because you're becoming someone new, but because you're finally remembering what you were before the mind started talking. Let's make this even clearer right now. Think the thought, I am not enough. Say it silently. Now notice, that thought has a texture, a feeling, a weight. Now think the thought, I am safe. Different texture, different emotional chemistry, same mind, same brain. So what does that tell you? It tells you, thoughts are not reality, they are suggestions, they are proposals. They are weather patterns moving through consciousness. And you are the sky. The presence that notices. Not a belief, not a concept. A direct experience. And your awakening is the shift from, I am the voice, to, I am the one who hears the voice. That is the entire transformation. Inner question number 2, but my thoughts feel so real. Yes, because thoughts don't just come as words. They come as emotional signals. A thought appears and instantly the body responds. Heart tightens, stomach drops, breath shortens. So the mind concludes, this must be true. But the body is not responding to truth. It is responding to meaning, and meaning is something the mind assigns. That's why you can think one sentence and feel peace, and think of another sentence and feel panic. Same environment, same room, different internal movie. Inner question number 3, why is this happening to me now? Because you're waking up. And waking up doesn't mean you suddenly have no thoughts. It means you stop being hypnotized by them. It means you begin to see the mind as a tool, not a master. And at first, that feels disorienting. Because your identity has been built out of thought. Your personality, your story, your wounds, your fears, your future. So when you begin to separate from thought, it can feel like you're losing yourself. But you're not losing yourself. You're losing the illusion. Because here's the part nobody tells you. When you start waking up, your thoughts may actually get louder. Not because you're regressing, but because the mind senses it's losing control. So it does what it always does. It creates urgency, it creates doubt, it creates fear. It says things like, what if you're wrong? What if you're wasting time? What if you're broken? What if this is dangerous? And if you're sensitive, if you're empathic, if you're spiritually open, those thoughts don't just feel like thoughts. They feel like energy, like an attack, like a dark cloud. But listen carefully. A thought can only control you if you believe it is you. The moment you see it as a passing event, its power weakens. Not instantly, but steadily. Let me tell you something that will change everything. Thoughts don't hurt because they exist. Thoughts hurt because you merge with them. When you merge, the thought becomes identity. When you unmerge, the thought becomes information. And most of your suffering is not from life, it's from identification. Remember what you felt earlier? That confusion, that sensitivity? That sense that something is shifting inside you. That's not you falling apart. That's you separating from the old mental cage. Now, here's the next test. For a moment, listen for the next thought. Don't think. Just listen. Wait for the next one. Did you notice that? There was a gap, even if it was tiny. That gap is everything, because in that gap, You are still here. You still exist. You are aware. You are present. And you are not thinking. That means your existence does not depend on thought. Which means thought is not your identity, it's just content. This is why people describe awakening as, I feel like I'm watching my mind. I feel like I'm not the same person. I feel more sensitive. I feel detached but also more alive. Because you are becoming aware of awareness. And once that begins, you cannot go back to unconsciousness. You can still get pulled into thoughts. But you'll always know somewhere deep down, this is a thought, and that knowing is freedom. Now let's ground this even more. Your brain is designed to produce thoughts. It's like a survival computer. It scans for threats. It predicts outcomes. It reviews the past. It tries to control uncertainty. So when you're awakening and you're stepping out of fear, the brain panics, because fear has been its fuel. So it generates more scenarios, more what-ifs, more worst-case futures. But those are not prophecies. They are survival outputs. Like a smoke alarm that's too sensitive. It's just outdated programming. An awakening is updating the system. Thought is not the enemy. Identification is. You don't need to destroy the mind. You need to stop worshiping it. You don't need to silence every thought. You need to stop obeying every thought. Now we enter the part that changes how you live. Because it's one thing to understand, I am not my thoughts. It's another thing to live it when the mind is screaming. So here's what I want you to do. Not as a belief, as a practice. Step 1. Name the thought when a painful thought arises. Don't argue with it. Don't analyze it. Don't fight it. Just label it. Say, planning thought, fear thought, memory thought, self-criticism thought. This creates distance. And distance is the doorway. Step 2. Locate it in the body. Now notice where it lands. Chest? Throat? Stomach? Because thoughts often disguise themselves as truth, but they reveal themselves as sensation. And sensation can be breathed through. Truth doesn't need to tighten your chest to be true. Step 3. Return to the witness. Now ask yourself one simple question. What is aware of this? Don't answer with words. Just feel the shift. That shift is the awakening. And here's the wild part. The moment you become the witness, the thought loses oxygen, not because you forced it away, but because you stopped feeding it identity. Now listen. Some people think awakening means, I should have only positive thoughts. No, that's not awakening. That's just mental control. Real awakening is, I can have any thought and still be free, because freedom isn't the absence of thought. Freedom is the absence of attachment. If you've been feeling unusually sensitive lately, more emotional, more easily overstimulated, that's not random. That's part of the shift, because when you stop numbing with thought, you start feeling what's actually there. You start noticing energy. You start noticing people's moods. You start noticing subtle inner signals. And yes, it can feel like too much, but it's not too much. It's just new, and your nervous system is recalibrating. You are not losing your mind, you are becoming aware of it. You are not becoming weaker, you are becoming more conscious. And what you're feeling is the loosening of an old identity. Now I need to warn you about something, because the mind is clever. Once you realize you are not your thoughts, the mind will try to turn that into another identity. It will say, I am awakened. I am special. I am above others. That's not awakening. That's ego wearing spiritual clothing. True awakening is quieter than that. True awakening is humble. It doesn't need to prove itself. It doesn't need a label. It simply rests as presence. If you felt confused, if you felt like your old life doesn't fit, if you felt like you're floating between worlds, that's not you breaking. That's you transitioning. And the fact that you're here watching this means your soul already knows. Something in you is ready. Now let's go one level deeper. Thoughts are not only mental. They are energetic. Every thought carries a frequency, a charge. And when you identify with a thought, you become tuned to that frequency. So if you identify with fear thoughts, your reality begins to feel like fear. If you identify with lack of thoughts, your life begins to feel like lack. Not because the universe is punishing you, but because perception follows identity. This is the real power of awakening. Not controlling life, not manifesting from desperation, but becoming conscious of what you are tuned to, and choosing gently, steadily to return to presence. Because presence is the highest frequency. Presence is where clarity lives. Presence is where intuition speaks. Presence is where peace becomes natural. Once a day. Do this. 1. Sit. 2. Take one slow breath. 3. Watch your thoughts like clouds. 4. Notice the space between them. 5. Rest as that space. Even 30 seconds. Because you're training your system to remember, I am the sky, not the storm, and here's what's coming next. Because this is only the first layer, in the next video, I'm going to show you something even more shocking. Most of your thoughts aren't even yours. They are inherited, conditioned, absorbed, from family, from culture, from trauma, from the collective field. And once you see how that works, you'll stop taking your mind personally. You'll stop blaming yourself for thoughts you never chose. And you'll finally feel free. So if you take nothing else from today, take this. You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness that sees them. And that awareness is steady. It is safe. It is real, even when the mind is loud, especially when the mind is loud. If this message found you at the exact moment you needed it, that's not an accident. You're awakening and you're not alone. I'll see you in the next one.